The creative people should focus on doing creative tasks.
Better workflows, better models,
So it will try and follow what you're doing, but try and help you along the way.
driving towards a persona and agentic-driven experience.
We want to bring our AI to the application so customers can use it much more easily.
Hi, Craig Wilson here, and welcome to another episode of Making the Media. Great to have you with me, and as always, excited to share another episode of the show. This time around, we're focusing on one of the biggest announcements from NAB, and that was a new partnership between Avid and Google. Now, it certainly caused a stir, but what does it actually mean for editors, producers, and journalists? Well, there are two key aspects. One is Gemini for generative AI directly in Media Composer, and the other is bringing the power of Google search to Avid Content Core. Now, Avid Content Core is a new cloud-hosted content data platform that won a host of awards at the show. So let's dive in now and hear from a couple of the people at the sharp end of this agreement. Guillaume Aubuchon, who is the VP of Product Management at Avid, and Anshul Kapoor from Google Cloud. Later, we'll also see a demo of the search in Avid Content Core from Avid's Senior Product Manager, Anna Buzzard. But let's start with Anshul and why Google was interested in a partnership with Avid.
Avid and Google have been working for a long period of time, and I think as an industry, it's come to a point where AI is taking significant traction. And I think from Google's point of view, we want to bring our AI to the application so customers can use it much more easily. So there's no better partner to do that actually with Avid, which has the forward-leading technology, but also the huge install base of solutions out there. So it was, in our opinion at least, marriage made in heaven.
Agreed.
Yeah, so Guillaume, from an Avid perspective, what benefits do you think it's going to bring?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think to sort of further on that point, I think AI is maturing to a point where, we're really starting to see where it's applicable for efficiencies within the workflow. And I think it was the right period of time for Avid to find the right partner that was really engaged in the media space. And I think, Google and what they're doing with Gemini and Veo and Nano, it's just, and their training data, they're just really invested in the media space, and we really just saw the best outcomes from a Gemini partnership from that perspective.
Yeah, so a number of different aspects to it, and we'll cover all of them in the next little while. But Anshul, so talk a little bit, maybe people aren't familiar with Gemini and Veo and those kind of things, so talk a little bit about what they are and what they do.
Yeah, actually, just a little bit about AI, and I think the transition of the AI is taken just for people. Machine learning AI has been there for quite some time. People use it for multiple regression models and simple things like that. But I think from 2018, 19, the whole generative AI component that came onto the new models, the new transform models that were launched in the market. OpenAI is doing it, Anthropic, Google, so Gemini is our family of world model, as you call it. So it's trained on world data in many cases, and it has capabilities to synthesize large amount of information, understand the context, why you are asking that question. And actually now also it's working on reasoning of those. So when you're asking that question, why are you asking that, and helping you make those decisions. So that's from a Gemini point of view. It's available as a Gemini app to consumers. But also as an API, so customers like Avid and many other customers use it inside their applications to use those services. And then we have got on other generative models, video generative models, which we call as Veo, which essentially you can just prompt the model in text in many cases, and then it'll create a video for you based on your specifications. And in many cases, you can also the key difference. What Veo does is it's grounded in physics and in understanding reality. So if you give certain ingredients that create an image or a video of a certain person, it'll actually do that, taking all those aspects into account.
Yeah, and right after this chat, you'll see this live in Media Composer. Guillaume, maybe talk a little bit about how it's enabled through extensions in Media Composer and why that's opening up new workflows.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to touch on a little bit of the previous point too. I mean, the more you contextualize and give Gemini access to the contextual experience, whether that's media in a bin or the underlying metadata or the timeline, the better the output is. And especially when you're working in a professional editorial environment, you want consistency, you want versioning, you want metadata, you want trackability. Contextualizing the prompt is all where it's at. So by underpinning, extensions and then extending extensions to some degree that we've done in Media Composer, we're able to feed all of that sort of underlying contextual metadata into Gemini, so that you're enabled. It's not just randomly generating and randomly prompting. You're enabling an editorial workflow, a trim to fill. You're really enabling that next level of efficiency inside the editing experience itself.
Yeah, now one of the things, there is concern about AI, and I think one of the things at Avid is that at our heart, I always think we're a creative company and we're here to support the creative community. So is it the case, Anshul, that we see this really as an assistant to the editor?
100%. I think that's always been the focus. That's how we see it being used right now, and the future also. We want to take a little bit of friction away. The creative people should focus on doing creative tasks and creating content, just things that and providing them information so they can make better decisions and create content in a much fluid format. And that's always been the focus. Just a little bit also coming back on the previous point on context, it's very important, especially in the case of video, because like I was saying, Gemini and our models are trained on world data. So it understands, it has things like knowledge graph built in. So it understands places and things. So, for example, if you say, I want to show me all the images of Great Wall, so you'll understand you're talking about Great Wall of China in many cases. So that context is not just understanding the context while you are looking for certain information. So show me images of somebody putting on the green, understanding that because a person talks about putting, it must be a golf green. And that actually is a huge advancement in technology that has been made.
That's actually the point I was going to come on to, is how fast are these kind of models and these technologies developing, and the kind of impetus from Google to develop these things. So how fast is it moving these days?
It is breakneck speed, and I think Guillaume can talk about it. I think sometimes we also lose track. It's like obviously we're in a new AI world, which it's every few weeks you hear about a new model, new update that's happening. We have our Google Cloud Next event starting tomorrow in Vegas, so you'll hear a lot more about these models and new technologies that are coming out just later this week.
Yeah, so Guillaume, from a partnership perspective, is that one of the reasons why we wanted to go with Google, was the fact of this pace of development and their ability to continue to deliver more value, if you fact, to our customers?
Absolutely. I mean, we just see that, Google is just continuing to accelerate in the AI space. And I think, well, more importantly than anything else, I mean, there's obviously many companies that are sort of accelerating through the AI space at this point. But I'll bring it back to, I think there's a lot of focus on media and media application. I mean, I'll go so far as like, you own YouTube. Full stop. So there's a lot of media underpinnings in the Gemini workflows that we're not seeing, and we're seeing the acceleration of those media workflows in Gemini all the time. And I think in terms of our partnership too, it's been, Google's been very open to some of our feedback on, how we can, build out some custom workflows, have it feel like an assistant to the editor and not an assistant editor, to have it really feel like enablement in the editorial experience itself. And yeah, it's moving at breakneck speed. Every 3 weeks, there's major
Yeah.
changes on the AI front.
Yeah, so the announcement of Gemini Media Composer is one part of the overall announcement that's been made just before the show, because another aspect is in Avid Content Core, which is our new content data platform. Before we talk about the specifics of using Vision Warehouse as part of that, Anshul, maybe just explain, Guillaume, a little bit about what Avid Content Core is and what it can bring to news and post-production customers.
Absolutely. Well, Avid Content Core is meant to be a single pane of glass, and it's meant to surface all of your media globally in cross distributed locations and have that instantly accessible for editing, publishing, quick turn in news, and all of the sort of historic media asset management and production asset management functionality we've been known for, but sort of blown out at a scale on a global basis and worldwide as a managed SaaS service. And so much of what Content Core does is about content reuse, about looking into petabytes and petabytes of archives and understanding the value of that content, the metadata of that content, and the importance for reuse of that content. And I think what we saw with Data Vision Warehouse was really the ability, and Vertex, the ability to do a multimodal semantic embeddings at massive scale across these 100 petabyte archives of media, and really start to look at the value of that content that lies underneath in Content Core, and really make that instantly accessible for the end user.
Yeah, so Angel, talk a little bit about Vision Warehouse.
Yeah, I think just one thing to also make a point, I think, is Guillaume was alluding to it. Tagging of metadata has been there for quite some time. So, and you people have been using AI to tag this is a car, this is a dog in the video. But the multimodality of AI actually is very different. Being able to understand the emotion, being able to understand transition across different scenes in many cases. So when you search for a goal has been scored, so understanding when the goal, I'm talking about European football in many cases, when the goal started, when it ended, in many cases, highly complex things to understand. Having the world knowledge to understand when bringing that to the customer. So when people are saying, I want to find photos next to Allegiant Stadium, understanding where the Allegiant Stadium is in the world, so you don't have to specify. So that bringing that world knowledge and uh, and the new embedding models that look after that index based on the not just the video, the text, but also the speech in many cases. So you can also look for things what the person said without actually creating subtitles and then manually tagging those subtitles. So it's a fully comprehensive system. It's used by Fox, and now Avid is also using it at scale.
You talked at the very start about utilizing the partnership with Avid to bring that solution to market. And I think that's a great demonstration of directly within a product that our users can use, they'll be able to take advantage of the power of the Google Vision Warehouse Search.
Absolutely. I think the partnership with Avid, it's about bringing our AI technology to the applications and leading applications like Avid, so it becomes useful and tangible for our customers. So I think the example that Anna showed over there is exactly, it's built how AI can help, like Guillaume was talking about being an assistant to the editor. It's part of a daily life, daily tools that the editor is using, and just making those workflows a little bit simpler for the editors to do. So that's our ambition.
Yeah, and Avid Content Core, you can get demonstrations of it on the booth, and the team there can walk you through that as well. So Guillaume, from a practical perspective, what do you think is next for the partnership?
Oh, well, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. It's like, what's next for AI? Um, uh, but um, but I think, I mean, I just want to touch on one quick thing with what we just showed too with Content Core, which is that there's so much more applicability when you have full semantic multimodal metadata, because it's not just about what's in the content. It's not also about the white space of the content. It's about deduplication on the enterprise level. I mean, there's so many facets of the sort of overall media pipeline that this is ultimately going to touch once for the past 10 15 years of digital, we've had an increasing amount of ingested material, and quite honestly a relatively nascent understanding of that material as it's come in the door. So this, and particularly with the sort of greater media space and economy right now, I think everybody's looking to sort of sharpen the pencil, and understanding explicitly what your content is, and how you can produce that faster is going to be key. So I mean, we're just going to keep driving towards better workflows, better models that are more specific in specific areas that we serve, that'll continue to refine that efficiency over time.
And we've looked today specifically at a news workflow, but we very much see Content Core as being applicable in post-production as well.
Absolutely. I mean, not only for searching material, but then there's all of the Gemini aspects as well. So, accelerating drafts, accelerating visual effects, accelerating, reuse of models in visual effects, which is a big pain point in my life for a long time. So, I mean, there's just so many other areas that are going to be touched in post-production, in news, in the gradient media landscape. Like I said, as everybody sort of tries to create more efficient workflows based on KPIs, efficiency, and data effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, Anshul, what's your view of what's next for the partnership?
I think, like Guillaume said, sky is definitely the limit. I think from our side, the future is all about, and Guillaume was alluding to it, it's agentic, as we call it. Like when you're looking for information or you're searching information, you're doing it for a specific task, right? So you might be searching for information to make highlights, for example, searching for information to create a new reel or a new show, or and then assessing the user or the editor with all those tasks also. So understand the context of why you are searching a certain piece of information and bringing that and helping you enable those workflows. That's actually a big area, the whole agentic workflows. And that also means actually integrating with multiple Avid systems, but also external systems, because typically the editors are working in across a fairly complex ecosystem of applications. So how we can bring it all together in the Avid user interface is something we are looking at.
Yeah, you bring up agentic workflows, and that's a really kind of key area as well. I mean, what sort of work are we doing on that, Guillaume, to bring the power of agentic workflows into
No, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, Content Core in and of itself can be instrumented as an MCP and headless, so you can agentically interact with all of the metadata and all of the underlying content and semantic embeddings underneath of Content Core, and then the editorial surfaces themselves, sort of like what we were just alluding to, we're driving towards a persona and agentic-driven experience. So we know what those editors are, what those editors are looking for. We know the context of someone who's working in sports versus someone who's working in a newsroom versus someone who's working and cutting a feature film or television for a streaming service. And we're going to continue to personalize that experience and deliver agents to those personas that help to drive day in, day out efficiencies in ever increasing specific ways.
You mentioned efficiencies there. I think every time we speak to customers, they talk about efficiencies. They talk about some of the pressures that they're under as well. Do you see something like this partnership as actually enabling people not just to find content, but to actually create more and create more tailored experiences for different markets that they want to serve?
Oh, absolutely. My grandfather always used to say they call it show business, not show art. So, it is at the end of the day about content creation. And I think there's been historically, just in the overall media space, a gap between the sort of logistics and, if you will, the manufacturing portion and the production process, and then the ROI on the content. So I think, yes, obviously delivering a more personalized, agentic-driven experience is going to allow people to create content faster and more efficiently. Ultimately, we will end up needing to capture less material because we'll have better understanding of the material that we already have and already possess. And I think that's, the overall media landscape is in desperate need of sort of closing a lot of those gaps in the media pipeline.
Yeah, definitely an exciting announcement, and clear there's a lot more to come as the partnership develops. And key to it all, of course, is the view that the AI is there to assist the editor or the journalist. So scan the QR code you can see on the screen now to get all the latest information on Avid Content Core. There's a ton of great stuff on the Avid website, including features such as review and approval, plus really advanced web editing capabilities. So you should definitely check it out. It's very, very cool. Now you can also scan this QR code, which will take you to a playlist of 23 videos of what was shown at the show at Las Vegas, and that includes more information on the use of Gemini in Media Composer, and as well as interviews with people like Anshul. There are also product demos and interviews with leading Hollywood editors talking about their work on projects like K-pop Demon Hunters and Project Hail Mary. Now, as always, if you're listening rather than watching the podcast, then just check out the show notes. Well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for listening, and to our production team, and of course to Guillaume, Anshul, Anna. Join us next time for more of the people making the media.